There. And then, so, and I'll begin. So, here with Anselm, we need to be able to broaden our understanding of religious experience. And why is religious experience very important for Anselm? Because it is here that we already consider any discourse about God from the perspective of the one who believes. And therefore, one where we basically look at the religious experience as something philosophical, something universal, uh, and therefore one that despite its universality must be understood from a very subjective experience, and but still, no, despite its subjectivity, must be approached as an event, and therefore would be impoverished. Something will be lacking if viewed from the perspective of simply investigating objects, no, and this is the difficulty of really comprehending God, no, and that's the reason why we will have a rather lengthy reading and discussion. So today we will look at the prologue and chapters 2 to 4, which is until the proof of God's existence, and then we'll look at chapter 5 onwards, and then hopefully next meeting we will look at the meeting after that, 3 meetings, we look at chapter 13 and 14 onwards. Take note that the proslogion is both a prayer and a discourse, no? A prayer and a discourse. And therefore, it's an understanding and evaluating the movement of prayer as it is articulated by Saint Anselm. So, of normally this discussion of Anselm goes into a discourse on philosophy of religion. And when we look at religion, the word religion, at least, as can be traced in St. Thomas Aquinas, but also so much earlier than Thomas Aquinas in Augustine, St. Augustine, and even in Cicero, you read relegere, to read, lege, right? Tolle lege, if you will remember St. Augustine, relegere, to read again, to re-experience again, religare, no, ligaments, ligaments, to tie, to what that ligate, what to ligate, to tie, to connect, to bind, if you will, no. So religion as a experiencing again, religion as a tying, as a binding, as a connecting, attaching oneself, and re-eligere, religion as a choosing, no, though we were baptized when we were young, as we've grown older we've learned to choose our faith, no. But here you see how it is an experiential fact, no, for religion, not as a conceptual fact alone, but religion as something that is really a matter of subjective experience, lege, no? That's why, for example, today is February 14. For those who are watching this YouTube video, or for my class that's having it face-to-face right now, it still needs to be asserted that yesterday the gospel was about the Syrophoenician woman, no? About the woman who asked Jesus to heal her daughter, and Jesus said, it's not proper to give away food to the dogs. And yet her faith demonstrated something more. It's a question of, what is this talking in relation to me? What is this talking about me who do not share the Jewish faith? Ganun yun eh. Pero when you read scriptures, when you read autobiographies, when you read religious experiences, there you see a connection, lege, no? You a coming to fore, di ba? Kaya nga mahalaga basahin yung mga sulat ni San Pablo kasi tandaan nyo si San Pablo katulad natin, hindi niya nakatagpo ang Diyos, hindi niya nakaharap si Jesus. Pero meron siyang pagbigkas ng pananampalataya na kakaiba, no? Lege, na maaari rin nating basahin. At yung pananampalatayang to pwede natin basahin, pwede natin idikit yung sarili natin, itali yung mga sarili natin, ba? Phylacteries. Kung paano tinatali ng mga Hudyo yung mga berso mula sa unang tipan sa kanilang mga sarili, di ba? Phylacteries, yung nilalagay nila sa ulo nila, tinatali sa kamay, nilalagay sa pintuan, yung Shema. Liga yon, isang uri ng ligament, di ba? Ligation, isang uri ng pagtatali. At sabay rin pagpili, religere. So, reliyon bilang karanasan ng pagdanas muli, uh, pagpapaubaya, no? Isang uri ng connect, di ba? Pagpapaubaya ng sarili sa pinaniniwalahan, ngunit sabay rin namang pagpili, pananampalataya, di ba? Reliyon bilang pananampalataya, pananam, no? Isang uri ng paglasa, pagtikim, ngunit sabay rin namang pagtikim ng pagtaya, no? Pagtataya, no? Commitment. At sa pananampalataya, hindi ka laging nananalo, no? Pwede kang matalo rin. Pero umaasa tayo na mananalo, di ba? But here, more importantly, we need to recognize the objectivity of religious experience. Yes, we've asserted that religious experience is subjective, like Teresa of Avila's religious experiences, mystical experiences, very subjective. And yet, also at the same time, it's very objective as well. Uh, that that what happened in that conversation between Mary and Angel Gabriel, for example, has changed Mary, but also changed the world. You know? How something very subjective have objective repercussions. Yung simpleng pakikipag-usap, simpleng pakikipag, di ba? Personal na diskusyon, binabago mundo, binabago lahat. Di ba? Ganon yung pag-ibig, di ba? Valentine's Day pa naman ngayon. Kung paano yung isang napaka-personal, it says here, my internet connection is unstable, sorry. Kung paano yung isang bagay na napaka-personal, dalawa lang kayong nag-uusap, ay hindi lang personal, kundi hindi lang subjektibo, objektibo din. Di ba? It's not just subjective, it has an objective reality. It changes the objective reality. At yun, mahalaga yun, no? Kasi pag pinag-usapan natin karanasang banal, religious experience, it is a question of what does it transform us? Diba? With faith as a response to that event, which prompts us, compels us to reinterpret ourselves. Diba? Tandaan nyo, this experience of Teresa of Avila, this is actually what is the name of this feast? Transberberation, parang ganun eh. There's a very unique name to this feast where the angel supposedly took a golden arrow and touched her heart. And many would say even that in her physical heart, which is incorrupt, you can see the wound of the arrow. Ang galing, di ba? Isang bagay na suhetibo. Anong pangalan? Wala. Ito, baka sa chat box sinabi. Transubstantiation. Hindi transubstantiation. Ginulo mo ako, Sid. Transverberation, something like that eh. Transverberation yata. I-research ko na nga. Tama nga ako. Kala nyo, ha? Oh, transverberation. Let's look at that. Oh, see? Ngayon, nag-agree na kayo. Ito, oh, that transverberation of the heart of Teresa is a mystical experience that commemorates the moment when an angel pierced Saint Teresa's heart with a dart of love. Transverberation ang tawag. Pero nga, yan nga yung interesting kasi nga, supposedly the heart of Teresa, of Saint Teresa, also carries that wound. So it didn't just happen subjectively, mystically, it happened physically. Ganun kalala yung nangyari sa kanya. Kaya interesting yung karanasan na yan. So moving forward, here we look at the movement from the subject, believing religious experience of God as a personal experience, to the object God, which requires, therefore, from us a lot of openness, but also at the same time, not just openness, but a suspension of judgment. Isang pagbibitin muna, no? Pagbibitin muna ng karanasan. Paano ba 'yan, 'di ba? Paano ba 'yan, no? So, having understood certain elements of religious experience, therefore, uh, we would enter into the rationality of belief. We will go through this by exploring a proof of God's existence within religious experience. At the end, we hope to consider what will happen next. Di ba? So, it's very important to understand what are the things that we need to see here at this point. So, what is the premise on arguing for or arguing against the existence of God? No, and based on our understanding of religious language and experience, according to Paul Ricoeur, critique and evaluate how that is even possible to consider God. No, the knowledge of God is an experience of an encounter and not an argument. Madaling isipin yung reason bakit may Diyos, bakit walang Diyos. Madaling isipin na. Pero yung talagang karanasan natin ng Diyos, hindi naman nagsisimula sa katwiran. Lagi siyang nagsisimula sa karanasan. May karanasang banal na gumigising sa pagkakomportable ng kalagayan natin. At yung karanasang banal na yun yung gumigising sa atin. This photo, saan galing to?
Ako, K-drama po na Encounter.
Encounter,
Opo,
ang title.
opo.
Ano nangyari sa encounter?
Nakalimutan ko na po. Alam ko po nagkatagpo po sila sa something Latin na bansa. Ayun.
Mhm. Meeting.
Nagka, nagkabanggaan ata sila ng kotse. Hindi na, mali pala. Basta yung isa po dyan, CEO ng hotel.
Tama. Pero dahil doon sa simpleng pakikipagtagpo na yon, di ba? Nagkaroon sila ng karanasan ng isa't isa. Di ba? Lumalim yung pagkakaunawa. Knowing God is basically the same. And undeniably, we know the context of our encounter with God is not through reading the Bible, reading the CCC, but through prayer. Prayer as an encounter of knowing God, as an encounter of God. No? it's not dependent on argumentation. It's not dependent on rational, justifiable, repeatable, objective proofs. Hindi naman natin natatagpuan yung Diyos dun eh, di ba? Uh, Kaya nga tama talaga si San Ignacio de Loyola dito, no? That the experience of prayer is the context of knowing God. But what makes prayer different from ordinary conversations? It needs to be said that whether you like it or not, prayer is a wounded word. It's a wounded word. No? It's a wounded word. Uh, open, one that is open to the transcendent, no? Pagbubukas sa Diyos. Ngunit sabay rin namang pagbalik sa kung sino nagsasalita tungkol sa Diyos. Kaya siya wounded word. Papuri sa Diyos, pero sabay, mas maraming tinutukoy tungkol sa sariling nagbibigay puri kaysa tungkol sa Diyos. So, I believe to in God. That's the movement that we are looking at. No? From I believe to in God. The flying spaghetti monster, if not Chulhu, Chitulhu, is the most popular god in the internet. I say this because whenever there is any discussion of the belief in God, there are people who equate him with just any imaginary figure. And most often, these two figures comes up. The point, however, has always been clear. God is nothing than the figment of our imagination. A projection of our innermost desires or our maximizing of everything that we see as good. In fact, that's not come from me, it comes from Sigmund Freud. But when it comes to the reality of God, the answer is negative. There is no evidence for him to exist. While we can sense, think about, abstract, and take apart, God is simply not one of those things that we abstract, sense, think, or take apart. There are things that are abstract but makes themselves manifest in concrete actions. Love, compassion, justice. But for many, God does not make himself present in this way. Belief, it seems, is hard to explain as a decision that makes sense. Diba? Mahirap ipaliwanag bakit ka naniniwala. Those who hold extreme atheistic views would bring up all arguments against any form of belief that is not evident. Those who are agnostic say it's even preposterous for one to have a belief in something that cannot be proven to exist. There are even those who are altogether anti-religion and say that the religious movements that are rooted in this belief in God are even against human progress or the realization of values. However, perhaps we are led to ask, who is this God whose reality some people deny? Or on what grounds can we say that God is only the figment of an imagination and whose existence lacks evidence when there is a whole lot of evidence that can be found? In fact, let's ask a deeper question. Why is there even a need to staunchly insist on a non-existence of God? To ask those questions leads one to also place questions on the believer. How come one believes in a God when there is, in fact, no hard evidence of his existence? Why do we spend so much time and resources on something that for others seems to be only a delusion? The deeper underlying question becomes this: why is there even a need to insist on the reality of God? In these three lectures on Anselm, we're going to see how an encounter with God, religious experience per se, religious experience per se, um, leads to a justification of believing not merely that there is a God, but that this God is a personal God. Saint Anselm, Saint Anselm's Proslogion may have been written more than half a millennium ago, yet the way he makes sense of faith is a subject of investigation, critique, or even debate. What's more important is to see that his discovery of God also relates not just with our own beliefs, but with our everyday existence as human persons in search of meaning. Who is Anselm of Canterbury? Born in Aosta, that's in Italy, northern part of Italy, he became a Benedictine abbot of Bec, and later on, he will become the Archbishop of Canterbury in England. He's one of the most prolific medieval philosophers and theologians to consider. For this course, we will actually pay attention at a text called the Proslogion. No, Proslogion. We're using the translation of Jasper Hopkins and Herbert Richardson. And so we look at this text, the Proslogion. The work itself is a bit long, comprised of 25 or so chapters. But because for my students who are enrolled in medieval philosophy, you've already gone through the Confessions of St. Augustine. 25 chapters or so is not a lot. And the best translation of this proslogion, I think, still carries within it remnants of old medieval English. In this regard, there are some reminders here. One, it's easy to get a guide of Anselm's proslogion, especially his argument, via YouTube and Google. No? But it's very important that we consider a close, careful reading of the text. Slowly read the composition of the sentences, write notes if you want, and take note of questions that pop in your head. In fact, I encourage you to do group readings in which one can read sections and then divide the readings into distinct parts that will help you see the movements of Anselm's discourse. So prologue and chapter 1 we'll look at right now. This is the rationale of the proslogion and the invitation to converse, talk, dialogue with God. Chapter 2 to 5 is the basis of what is called ontological proof, a name which was given to this argument by Immanuel Kant. But as you would see, in the argument of Jean-Luc Marion, for example, he will say that this is not really ontological. It's a misnomer to call this one ontological. But chapters 2 to 5 is the ontological proof of God's existence. This is also called the first core of the proslogion. Chapters 6 to 14, yes, that's how many chapters there are there, about 8 chapters. We'll talk about the divine attributes and the relationship of contraries, no? Like, if God is merciful, how can he be just? Something like that. Chapter 15 is the attribution of a wider concept of God. The very limited name of God that you find in chapter 2, in chapter 15, he expands a little bit more. Chapter 16 to 22 is a mode of reconciling the paradoxes found in God. Chapter 23 to 25 is the Trinity as the search of this conversing, dialoguing. And then in chapter 26, he speaks of joy. Joy in finding and further searching God. That joy is very important. No? Take note, that joy is very important. La joya. No? Joy, not happiness. Joy. Take your time reading each part, and when you have completely understood and connected with the previous readings, only then should you proceed to the next part. Take note also of the important terms, no? When you read the proslogion. The names that Anselm labels God, the characteristics and attributes that Anselm discovers are part of his faith, and the way he uses the names of God to argue his point. For example, the existence of God as something which he is so certain and intelligible. Since the reading is long enough, I will not burden you further to read the following, but I will take some parts for deeper discussions. But I hope you'd consider reading Christian. I can give you the text of Christian on Wounded Word. Naming God is from Paul Ricoeur, and then also Jean-Luc Marion. Jean-Luc Marion. Okay? In our attempt to understand and interpret Anselm's proslogion, we have to take note a very important thing. This is not an attempt to do theology. More so, it's not an attempt to convert readers to Christianity. I hope that's clear. This is not theology. What we will be doing here, as we have emphasized, is to be on the feet of one who believes. We hope that in our attempt to make sense of how the believer believes, we can understand what it means to believe as such. Put simply, we bracket our judgments of truth and enter into the meaning of experience. In the course of doing so, we analyze, raise questions, critique what is being presented to us in our own terms. Afterwards, we draw insights from this experience and see how it can help us make sense of our lives and experiences. That having said, we begin understanding the proslogion as it is. Going back to the slides a while ago, a prayer. Anselm's introduction to the Proslogion lays down his agenda. He calls it unum argumentum, no? Single argument. And in his unum argumentum, sabi niya sasabihin niya dito, afterwards, considering this work to be composed of a chain of many arguments, I began to ask myself, perhaps a single consideration, an unum argumentum. And the single argument that he hopes to be achieved has two inseparable goals. One, showing that God truly exists there. Just a minute. And two, that he is supremely good there. That's the two argument there. That's also what the slides would say, no? That there is the two chief objectives of the proslogion is one, to show that God truly exists, and two, that he is the good, summum bonum, no? Summa, highest, good. Actually, summum is also the totality of the good. No? That's also something you have to pay attention to. Totality of the good, kabuuan ng mabuti, no? Take note and notice how Anselm develops everything according to this goal, and how this goal will affect and direct his method. Note that Anselm desires to prove this as someone who desires to contemplate God, seeking to understand what one believes. And as we see from this, Anselm's argument does not start with a blank slate. No? Those who seek for evidence first before believing, rather, he uses it for those who believe, even if for a little. Naniniwala kahit bahagya, aliquatenus. What is implicit here is that the meaning of this experience can be fully appreciated and understood by those who believe, again, even just a little. What does all this mean? Anong kahulugan ng lahat ng ito? Para saan? Let us put it in an analogy that's close to us. The experience of knowing a person. Knowing a person. Ano ba yung karanasan mo na may kinikilala kang tao? Di ba? The extent of our knowledge of a person is greatly formed by the degree of interest that we have toward that person. Pag interesado ka doon sa tao, ginagaya mo, di ba? Kinikilala mo, gagayahin mo yung background, halimbawa, ganun. If there is a deep desire and interest in knowing someone, let's say it's your crush or someone you're interested with, then there is motivation to know more. Yes, date is a usual sign of interest. You're correct, Sid. Ito yung patunay na wala talaga tayong ka-date, no? Kasi nasa bahay lang, ganun. Ayaw pa lumabas kasi ayaw ma-traffic kasi Valentine's Day, Friday, payday, lahat ng signs ng traffic nandyan. Lumabas ako kanina umaga, nag-patient call ako. I had 3 patients this morning. A 2-time boxing champion, his daughter, and somebody else. Anyway, balik tayo. Pinag-uusapan. So, let's say your crush or someone you're interested with, then there's motivation to know more. Paano mo kikilalanin? Through conversations, through comparing favorites, or through personally meeting up, eating a meal, dating, going to movies. Perhaps that's not the same with whom someone you are forced to encounter in official business. Take for example your Grab or Lala Move driver or Angkas whose business is just hand over the goods you bought. After that, wala na. Sure, you may ask how she's doing and you may enter into a brief conversation, but more often than not, the interaction stops at the completion of the delivery. In a way, that was what Anselm wants to highlight before he begins his argument. Only those with the interest and desire to encounter God in faith will have the capacity to understand the argument he lays down. If one is conditioned already to deny who this God is and whether he exists, then the battle has been lost from the beginning, so to speak. Thus, we can say that the proslogion presents an understanding of faith, but only for those who at the least decide to believe or open the possibility of it. Echoing the tail end, unless one has belief, even for just a little, aliquatenus, aliquatenus, one cannot understand. Bawal lumabas ngayon. O bawal, matraffic. Let's look at some of the sections here. No? Actually here, he opens us to understanding God. Kaya nga lalabas itong fides querens intellectum. Ito, faith seeking understanding. Fides querens intellectum. Faith seeking understanding. Mababanggit niya ulit yan mamaya, pero hindi na fides querens intellectum. Ang pag-uusapan niya na mamaya ay credo ut intelligam. Credo ut intelligam. So let's look at this one, chapter 1. Come now, insignificant man. Leave behind for a time your preoccupations. Seclude yourself for a while from your disquieting thoughts. Turn aside now from heavy cares and set aside your wearisome tasks. Make time for God. There, I like that line agad. Make time for God. And then he will continue, rest a while in him. Enter the inner chamber of your mind. Shut out everything except God and what is of aid to you in seeking him. And after closing the chamber door, seek him out. Ano nangyayari dito? Context nito, retreat, di ba? Parang pumapunta ka sa retreat. Ihiwalay mo yung sarili mo sa lahat, magtatago ka, pupunta ka sa retreat. Ganun yung nangyayari. The context is really that of a retreat. And then when you enter, he will say, speak now my whole heart, speak now to God. And then he will give you a line that's very familiar to you. Lord my God, teach my heart where and how to seek you, where and how to find you. Di ba? Teach my heart where and how to seek you, where and how to find you. And then he says, if you are not here, where shall I seek you? But if you are everywhere, why do I not sense your presence? But you dwell in lux inaccessibilis. No, you dwell in inaccessible light. No, paano yan? Hindi kita makita, hindi kita, kung wala ka dito, nasaan ka? Kung nandito ka, bakit hindi kita nakikita? Yun yung tanong niya. Paano yun? Kasi nasa looks inaccessibilis ka. Yet where is looks inaccessibilis? Di ba? Where is look inaccessibilis? Where is this light inaccessible? Di ba? And so he says, what shall your servant do? Anguished out of love for you and cast away from your face. He pants to see you, but your face is too far removed from him. He desires to approach you, but your dwelling place is inaccessible. He desires to find you, but does not know your abode. He longs to seek you, but does not know your countenance. O Lord, you are my God. You are my Lord, yet never have I seen you. You have created me and recreated me and have bestowed upon me all the good things I have. And yet I am not yet acquainted with you. I have not done yet that for which I was made. I was made for seeing you, but not yet have I done that for which I was made. So look at this one. He was talking first person, di ba? You are my Lord, yet I never saw you. And then he shifts to third person. Bakit daw hindi natin makita ang Diyos? Kasi kasalanan nitong Adam na ito. Adam na ito. Sabi niya, oh, the unhappy fate of man. Third person agad. When he lost that end for which he was made. Oh, that hard and ominous fall. Alas, what he lost and what he found. What vanished and what remained. Ano daw yung what vanished and what remained? It continues. He lost the happiness for which he was made and found unhappiness for which he was not made. That without which nothing is happy vanished, and there remained what through itself is only unhappy. What then? Man then ate the bread of angels, for which he now hungers, and now he eats the bread of sorrow, which then he did not know. Alas, the common mourning of men, the universal lament of the sons of Adam. Tama, tapos ko-compare niya yung sarili niya kay Adam. Adam, busog ka, burp with satiety. We sigh with hunger. He abounded, we go bedding. He happily possessed and unhappily asserted. Habang tayo unhappily lack and unhappily desire. Why did he not, when easily able, keep for us that of which we're gravely deprived? Why did he block off from us the light and enshroud us in darkness? Why did he take away from us life and inflict death? Wretched creatures that we are, expelled from that home, impelled to this one, cast down from that abode, sunken to this one, from our homeland in exile, from the vision of God into our own blindness, blah, blah, blah. What a grievous loss, a heavy sorrow, an unmitigated plight. So sinisisi niya si Adam, bakit siya naghihirap? And tapos magiging first person ulit. But unless, unhappy me, one of the other unhappy sons of Eve, who are far removed from God, what did I set out to do? What have I achieved? For what was I striving? Where have I arrived? To what was I aspiring? For what do I sigh? I sought after good things, and behold, here is turmoil. I was striving unto God, but collided with myself. I was seeking rest in my inner recesses, but found tribulation and grief. I wanted to laugh from joy, but I'm constrained to cry out from groaning of heart. Ang galing, di ba? Parang sabi niya, walang ya, napaka-miserable ng buhay ko. Ang hirap-hirap mabuhay. May paghihirap, naghihirap ako. Ganun yun. So, dito darating sa point, sasabihin niya, ganyan na ba ka-miserable tayong lahat? Ganyan na ba ka-miserable yung mga bagay-bagay, no? And then sasabihin ni Anselmo, oo, ganun talaga ka miserable. Sabi niya. Kaya sasabihin niya dito, uh, sabi niya dito, O Lord, that I may not despair with sighing, but may revive in hoping. I beseech you, O Lord. My heart is made bitter by its own desolation. Sweeten it by your consolation. I beseech you, O Lord, that having begun in hunger to seek you, I may not finish without partaking of you. I set out famished. Let me not return still unfed. I came as one who is poor to the one who is rich, as one who is unhappy to one who is merciful. Galing. Deliver me. Sabi nga niya, so, ganito na ba kamiserable buhay natin? Sabi niya, oo, ganyan kamiserable buhay mo. And then sasabihin niya, but you have to understand, what you cannot do on your own, God will do for you. What you cannot do on your own, save yourself. God will do for you. I cannot seek you. And then it continues, teach me to seek you and reveal yourself to me as I seek. For unless you teach me, I cannot seek you. And unless you reveal yourself, I cannot find you. Let me seek you in desiring you. Let me desire you in seeking you. Let me find you in loving you. Let me love you in finding you. Prayer. Prayer. In the preface to the proslogion, you will see that he enters now into his argument. If you read carefully, we see the genre shift in chapter 1. He now shifts into a dual conversation, talking to himself, and then afterwards talking to God. In a way, it is a summons to the very conversation with someone in whom he has interest. Cast aside everything, focus on that which is in front of you and reveals to you. In other words, be present in the present. From there, he does not talk about God, but to God personally. Anselm provides what goes on in the prayer as a conversation between him and God, whom he believes. It is presupposed as a real conversation and a meaningful experience. Hopefully, this way of presentation of Anselm as well as Saint Augustine allow us to see uh, the challenge of really trying to understand God. So here, Anselm really meaningfully engages the very object even before he comes to prove it, meaning something is at work here, something that faith provides that reason and proof would not be able to accept right away. Moreover, if this is a conversation, then we ought to understand everything in the manner in which things are presented to us. In other words, coming from the literature classes, we ought to do something more of a genre. There's a very huge difference between explaining a topic and defending a topic, with bringing out some understanding by letting us in on a conversation. If the difference is quite unclear to you, you need to consider watching Richard Linklater's Before Sunset. observe that this conversation reveals uh, to Celine and Jesse about themselves as they talk to themselves. Afterwards, make think of this image or fantasize this image, that conversation you wanted to have with your crush, and compare it to, say, just reading from his or her blog or Twitter. What difference does this bring? What knowledge is known in a real-time encounter that we cannot possibly know in a rational, discursive behavior? In this regard, I would like to pay attention to some difficulty but manageable aspects once encountered. Prayer, according to Jean-Louis Cresson, is a word that is wounded. What does he mean by this? He says that our words in prayer open ourselves to the infinite, and at the same time, we let the infinite enter into our lives. In a way, because of that fact that prayer is talking to someone that is not in the front of me as another person is, we glimpse a dimension of our conversation with the infinite as a conversation with ourselves. Sige. I've been talking for almost 1 hour. I'd like to ask first if students have a lesson that I can question that I can address. You may raise them now. There being none, I'll pause the recording now. So let's resume at that first three movement that came out. So, very same. Tama din yung pinadala sa akin na observation na same yung literary style ni Anselm and Augustine. Very much the same. Benedictine, si Saint Anselm, yes. Also. So, going back, there are movements that he described here in the proslogion, yung seeking, finding, desiring, and loving. This movement we see in the real proslogion, right? Here, in the latter part. Sabi niya dito, permit me at least from afar or from the deep to look upwards towards your light. Teach me to seek you and reveal yourself to me as I seek. For I cannot, for unless you teach me, I cannot seek you, and unless you reveal yourself, I cannot find you. Let me seek you in desiring you. Let me desire you in seeking you. Let me find you in loving you. Let me love you in finding you. Those are the movements that are very important. Going back to my slides, seeking, finding, desiring, and loving. No, I remember when Father Roque Ferriols celebrated his 75th year as a Jesuit. I think he was 90 years old then. He gave a speech that says, "All my life, I thought I was looking for God, but I was wrong," Father Roque wrote. It was God who was looking for me. All I needed to do was to be found. Ang galing. Sabi niya, di ba, philosopher yan, ha? Matinong philosopher, malalim na philosopher. Sabi niya, all my life, I thought I was looking for God, but I was wrong. It was God who was looking for me. All I needed to do was to be found. Makikita mo yung humility, makikita mo yung depth, makikita mo yung kakaiba, di ba? That's very important, di ba? Uh, pero seeking, no? You have to seek first. And then once you seek, you will find. But once you find, you will desire that which you found. After you desire that which you found, you will learn to love it. So loving comes in the very end. No? Loving comes in the very end. Uh, and that's something you have to pay attention to, di ba? Yung mga gusto, parang loving is a consequence of desiring. Seeking, if you seek, you will find. But if you love, you find, you will desire. What you desire, you will love. Galing, di ba? The movements are very, very important because these are movements of the spirit, di ba? The movements of the spirit. And the movements of the spirit are quite rather very clear, very clear. Yan, contrary yan to reason, no? That's contrary to reason. And when I say contrary to reason, that's not how we normally think. That's not how we normally act. That's not how we normally behave. We don't actually follow these movements anymore. They're rather religious movements, di ba? Seeking, finding, desiring. Pag nahanap mo, hahangarin mo. Pag hinangad mo, iibigin mo. Very interesting, in fact. Paano siya nangyayaring ganyan, no, na kailangan hangarin? How will you even do that? Diba? How will we even do that? So, kaya nga wounded word, di ba? Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina, Henry Christian. Flawed tayo. Prayer as wounded. No? Prayer as wounded. Let's look at your... Oo naman, una siyang nagmahal. But the second movement is the movement of believing and understanding. That's why he will say, "O Lord, I acknowledge and give thanks that you created in me your image so that I may remember, contemplate, and love you." Ang galing yan, ha? Gustong-gusto ko yan. Yung parang, Lord, ginawa mo naman akong ganito para matutunan kitang ibigin, mahalin, at lahat-lahat pa. Ganyan yung ginawa mo sa akin. Tinuruan mo ako lahat-lahat, no? Pero itutuloy niya yan, no? At mas malinaw diyan yung gusto niyang makita, no? But this image, ako, has been so effaced by the aggression of transgressions, so hidden from sight by the dark billows of sins. Di ba? Kasi wala eh. May kasalanan ako eh. Miserable yung buhay ko eh. Pero kung ano yung hindi ko kayang gawin sa sarili ko, isalba ito, kaya mong gawin para sa akin. Kaya mong gawin para sa akin. Diba? That's what the Savior means. That's what Jesus Savior means. We cannot liberate ourselves, but God can liberate us. So sabi niya, "O Lord, I do not attempt to gain access to your loftiness because I do not consider my intellect to be equal to this task. But I yearn to understand some measure of your truth." No? Aliquatenus. Gusto kong malaman, aliquatenus. which my heart believes and loves. For I do not seek to understand in order to believe, but I believe in order to understand. For I believe even this, that unless I believe, I shall not understand. Sa Latin, mas maganda eh. Itong naka-green na to. Sa Latin, non tento domine penetrare altitudinem tuam, quia nulla tenus comparo ile intellectum meum. I do not, I penetrare altitudinem tuam. I do not attempt to gain access to your loftiness, altitudinem tuam. Hindi ako maasa na umakyat ako ng ganyan kataas, no? Sed desidero, no? But I yearn. Yes, said desidero aliquatenus, there, some measure of your truth, a little portion of your truth, a little portion. Aliquatenus intelligere veritatem tuam, quam credit et amat cor meum, which my heart believes, credit, et amat, loves. Neque enim quero intellegere ut credam. Because I do not understand, I do not believe, I do not understand in order to believe. There. Intellegere ut credam. Said, but credo ut intelligam. Gusto ko yan. Credo ut intelligam. I believe in order to understand. Sa wikang Filipino, hindi ko sinusubukan, Panginoon, na mapasukan ang iyong kataas-taasan, sapagkat hindi ito matutumbasan ng aking pag-uunawa. Ngunit ninanais kong maunawaan ng bahagya ang iyong katotohanan, katotohanang pinaniniwalaan at minamahal ng aking puso, sapagkat hindi ko sinisikapang makaunawa upang sumampalataya, ngunit sumasampalataya ako upang makaunawa. Sumasampalataya ako upang makaunawa. No? Faith in these aspects, the wounded word, plays a very important role. Plays a very important role. Diba? Prayer, according to Jean-Louis Cresson, is a word that is wounded. Wounded word. What does he mean by this? He says that our words in prayer open ourselves to the infinite. And at the same time, we let the infinite enter into our lives. In a way, because of the fact that prayer is talking to someone that is not in front of me as another person is, we glimpse a dimension of our conversation with the infinite as a conversation with ourselves. If we notice, prayer reveals to us the reality of ourselves in relation to our Lord. Our desires, our wishes, our thanksgiving, and even the position with which we pray shows the kind of persons that we are. Like a mirror that reveals us, prayer as an address to the infinite also shows us who we are. More than a moment of address to a God whom we believe, it is also a moment to ask implicitly, Who is this I see staring straight back at me? Does this reflection show who I am inside? More than just a prayer, mirror, we also see through a glass darkly. We certainly do not see the infinite as a conversation partner in his fleshy existence, but it is faith that makes possible this conversation in prayer. Our words are left in the open to the infinite, hoping that they are heard. And for the person who has faith, it entails great trust that the infinite will hear that prayer or that it will be responded to according to his infinite wisdom. We have many examples of that, but I think the best example of this kind of wounded word is in the Gospels. Faced with the reality of being crucified to death, Jesus prays in the Garden of Gethsemane and utters perhaps his deepest, most painful prayer. Father, let this cup pass from me, yet not as I will, but yours. With fear, desperation, we see how Jesus becomes truly aware of what he faces and expresses his desire. But there's something that happens in prayer in that our wills and our states of mind are changed in the process of addressing this to God. Di ba? May nangyayari eh. May nangyayari. In the midst of pain, fear, and suffering, Jesus accepts what goes on in him. From there, he proceeds to the Father. Di ba? From the Father. More resolved than ever, thanks to that experience of prayer. In the same way, prayer as a conversation also comes to change us, transforming our worldviews and perspectives. It is in this way that the word of prayer is wounded. More than just flawed, it also breaks us into the infinite and allows from this open wound for the Lord to enter. As going back to Anselm, this is what he desires, for the infinite to enter into the opening, into the consciousness that prayer gives. Through this opening, he comes to understand, even if for just a little, aliquatenus. Perhaps it's good to recall the most desperate times in which you have come to talk to the Lord. Or perhaps to anybody whose presence has passed in this world and gone before us as something that is close to this experience of prayer. Do you experience the same thing? What do experiences of wounded conversations bring forth about ourselves and in this world? To summarize, Anselm is inviting us on this conversation between himself and God, which reveals much to us what it means to believe as a person and to encounter this God in the experience of prayer. Only in such an openness can we be able to be at least glimpse who God is and what it means to respond to this God in faith. Are there questions that remained in your mind? Are there insights that you want to deepen and take to further levels of understanding? We'll consider that in the succeeding meetings. Let me stop the recording for the YouTube page right now.